Have you ever watched someone plunge so deeply into a passion that their physical body actually starts breaking down, but they aggressively insist they've never been better?
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's terrifying to witness. They cross this invisible line between deep dedication and dangerous delusion. And the scariest part is they take absolute joy in doing it.
Right. They just smile right at you while everything falls
Oh,
apart.
exactly. They are entirely convinced they hold the answers, even as their life just kind of crumbles.
And that invisible line is exactly what we're exploring today.
Yeah.
We have our hands on a really striking, um, deeply psychological text. It's titled An Analysis of the Symptoms of Going Astray.
Yeah. Authored by Sufeng in March of 2026.
Right, March 2026.
Yeah.
And it's our source for today's deep dive.
It's a fascinating document, honestly. It reads almost like a clinical diagnostic manual for the human spirit.
Totally.
It doesn't just talk about obsession in vague, poetic terms. It actually breaks down the exact mechanics of how a human mind completely detaches from reality.
Which is so rare. And that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to decode this framework of human obsession.
We really need to.
Yeah, we want to understand the specific warning signs, figure out who is actually most vulnerable to falling into this trap, and confront the very harsh reality of what it takes to recover once someone has gone off the deep end.
Which is not an easy journey, to say the least.
Not at all.
Oh.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can understand the underlying causes of someone going astray, we need to know exactly what it looks like in real time.
We do, and Yufeng's text provides a very clear, highly structured list of symptoms.
It's remarkably specific.
Right. If you analyze the framework, these symptoms categorize themselves across 3 different layers of the human experience. There's a massive emotional and ego-driven shift, a complete cognitive breakdown, and finally, an undeniable biological impact.
So it hits literally every part of your being. Let's start with that emotional and ego shift, because on the surface, the text lists things that most people wouldn't necessarily see as red flags.
Yeah, they sound like positives.
Exactly. So Feng points to extreme self-confidence, emotional excitement, and heightened enthusiasm. I mean, if a friend of mine started a new project and displayed those traits, I'd probably congratulate them.
Sure, you'd think they're thriving.
Right. I think they just found their purpose.
And that is exactly what makes this pathology so insidious. The earliest symptoms disguise themselves as peak performance or, profound enlightenment.
Wow. Yeah. It looks like success.
It does, but you have to look at what Sufeng pairs those traits with. He specifically links that heightened enthusiasm to secret delight and self-satisfaction.
Wait, I want to stop you there because secret delight is a very specific phrase.
It really is.
Why is taking delight in your own passion a bad thing? Isn't personal satisfaction the goal of, any deep pursuit?
Well, there's a massive difference between personal satisfaction and the kind of secret delight being described here. Healthy satisfaction is usually grounded and, outward-facing.
You want to share with people.
Exactly. You want to bring people in. Secret delight is an isolated, inward-facing euphoria. The person begins to believe they possess some hidden truth or some elevated status that the rest of the world is just too blind or too ignorant to understand.
No, I see. So it becomes a superiority thing.
Totally. It's not passion anymore. It's an extreme, toxic inflation of the ego.
Yeah.
They are basically getting high on their own perceived superiority.
Which perfectly explains why that ego shift acts as the gateway to the second layer of symptoms, the cognitive breakdown.
Yes, the mind just fractures.
Because once your ego convinces you that you hold a secret truth no one else can see, you don't need logic anymore. And the text is explicit about this. It states that logical reasoning literally drops to zero.
A total collapse of rational faculties.
Yeah.
And when logic vanishes, the mind has to fill that void with something else.
Right. Nature abhors a vacuum.
Exactly. So according to the text, that void is filled with frequent illusions or imagined visions. The person starts taking secret pleasure in their own cyclical thoughts, and they begin acting covertly.
It's essentially like a computer virus that doesn't blue screen your laptop. It actually makes the processor run at 200% capacity.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, it spins the fans up, makes the screen incredibly bright, and gives the system this false sense of optimal performance. But in the background, the virus is completely scrambling the hard drive.
It's destroying the foundation while the lights are flashing.
Exactly. And the most dangerous part, it actively blocks any antivirus software from running. Because the Feng notes that the absolute biggest red flag of this cognitive breakdown is an utter inability to accept advice.
They shut everyone out.
Yeah, they become entirely impenetrable to counsel from family members, friends, teachers, or, spiritual mentors.
What's fascinating here is the paradox your analogy highlights. The extreme self-confidence and that emotional excitement are actually the exact mechanisms masking the loss of logical reasoning.
Wait, so the excitement is the cover-up.
Yes. The virus requires that massive energy output to sustain the illusion. When logic is gone, the only thing holding the delusion together is sheer brute force emotional conviction.
Oh, wow. So if they ever stop feeling that secret delight?
The whole thing falls apart. If they ever slowed down enough to listen to a friend's advice, the entire house of cards would collapse. So the mind builds a fortress to protect the delusion.
But a mind running at 200% capacity on pure delusion, it has to pull that energy from somewhere.
Yeah.
And that leads directly to the third symptom category.
The physical toll.
Right. The text notes an increasing disorder in one's physical functioning. I mean, this isn't just a philosophical error, it's a holistic hijacking.
Absolutely. The mental and spiritual break is so profound that it physically damages the hardware. The mind becomes so detached from reality that the body literally loses its natural rhythm and order.
How does that actually work, though, practically speaking? Like, how does an inflated ego and a loss of logic translate to physical disorder?
Well, think about the physical toll of sustaining a massive covert delusion. If a person is constantly cycling through intense emotional excitement, acting in secrecy, and battling off the perceived ignorance of their friends and family, their nervous system is just fried.
Oh, it's just in a constant state of overdrive.
Precisely. Sleep patterns dissolve, basic nutrition is forgotten, the biological baseline requires a connection to physical reality, and, well, this person has completely severed that connection.
So you're looking at a person whose physical body is breaking down, whose logical reasoning is non-existent, but who is aggressively, euphorically confident that they have never been better.
It is the perfect self-sustaining storm of self-destruction.
Okay, so if the symptoms are this severe, a total hijacking of the mind and body, what actually triggers it? Like, we know what the illness looks like, but what causes the infection?
That's the real question.
Because UFN provides a very specific inventory, the types of people most likely to go astray, and the obsessions they chase.
He really does. And it covers a remarkably wide spectrum of human experience. It's not just one type of person.
Right.
He points to those obsessed with romantic attachment. He lists those obsessed with money, power, or official political rank.
So very grounded, worldly things. But then the text pivots entirely away from the worldly stuff.
It really takes a turn.
Yeah, it highlights those excessively absorbed in occult arts, numerology, or esoteric techniques. It calls out those fanatically devoted to particular cultivation methods or practices.
Which, for listeners who might not be familiar with that terminology, cultivation methods generally refer to rigorous spiritual or physical regimens.
Things like intense meditation.
Exactly. Prolonged daily meditations, specific energy work, or highly restrictive lifestyle rules aimed at achieving a higher state of being.
Right. And the text also includes those preoccupied with mystical experiences or supernatural claims. But here's where it gets really interesting. I have to challenge this list.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because it feels wildly disjointed to me. On one hand, you have a cutthroat politician obsessed with official rank and power.
Sure.
On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you have an isolated mystic, fanatically devoted to esoteric cultivation methods or numerology. How can two people pursuing completely opposite goals end up suffering from the exact same illness?
It seems like a contradiction, doesn't it?
It really does. Are we saying that any deep, dedicated pursuit is inherently dangerous?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, Sameng Singh's framework provides a brilliant answer. The danger lies not in what they are pursuing, but the mechanism of how they are pursuing it.
The mechanism.
Yes. Whether the fixation is entirely worldly like power, politics, or romance, or entirely otherworldly like the occult or supernatural experiences, the psychological machinery of obsession is identical.
Or I see. So the object of the obsession is irrelevant. The politician and the mystic are just plugging different variables into the same destructive equation.
Precisely. The common denominator across every single profile on this list is a profound loss of balance and a retreat into isolation.
Which brings us to the last category on his list.
Right. So Fang gives us the key in his final profile category. Those who habitually act in secrecy and concealment. That is the connective tissue here. Secrecy is the actual incubator for going astray.
Because secrecy creates a closed feedback loop.
Exactly. When you hide what you are doing, whether you are hiding financial manipulation to gain political power or hiding a bizarre esoteric ritual from your spouse, you cut yourself off from the grounding reality of other people.
You eliminate accountability entirely.
You do. The mind no longer has an external sounding board, so it just echoes its own delusions back to itself, amplifying them every single time.
That makes perfect sense. So it's not that dedicating yourself to a career or a spiritual practice is bad.
Not at all.
It's that any pursuit that demands absolute secrecy, zero accountability, and extreme unbalanced devotion will inevitably drive you off the cliff.
It's a guaranteed crash.
And honestly, looking at it that way is a sobering reminder that none of us are really immune to this.
It's easy to think we are.
Right. We might judge the person obsessed with the occult and think, I'd never fall for that.
Yeah.
While completely ignoring how secretive and unbalanced we become about our own career advancement or like a romantic relationship.
The trap is identical. It's just painted a different color.
Wow. And once that trap snaps shut, the isolation is so complete that getting out becomes incredibly difficult.
Which brings us to the most difficult part of this entire deep dive.
The recovery. Because if secrecy creates this impenetrable feedback loop and their inflated ego completely blocks out any advice or intervention from the outside world, how does anyone actually pull them back?
It's a monumental task.
What is Dwefeng's prognosis for recovery here?
Honestly, the prognosis is grim. The text states very clearly that once a person has gone astray, it is akin to falling seriously ill.
So it's not a quick fix.
Not at all. This isn't a situation where a quick conversation over coffee can trigger a minor course correction. Recovery is deeply complex because the damage is multi-layered.
Yeah. Dwefeng outlines that healing has to occur on 3 distinct levels: the psychological, the spiritual, and the physical.
Which perfectly mirrors the 3 categories of symptoms we discussed at the beginning. It's a full system reboot.
You have to fix everything.
You do. The psychological healing has to drain that toxic ego inflation and dismantle the secret delight. The spiritual healing must address the cognitive breakdown, clearing away the frequent illusions to reestablish a baseline of truth.
And then the physical.
Right. The physical healing is necessary to literally repair the biological disorder and the nervous system damage the obsession caused.
So you really can't just fix one layer. I mean, you can't treat the physical exhaustion with sleep if their mind is still hallucinating illusions.
Exactly. The exhaustion will just come back.
And you can't logically debate their illusions if their ego still blocks all advice. You have to treat the whole system simultaneously.
It's an overwhelming process.
But even with that holistic, 3-tiered approach, Dwefeng explicitly states that the results are often limited.
Limited results. It's a very heavy, very sobering phrase to read in a text like this.
So what does this all mean? To me, it frames going astray not as a temporary lapse in judgment, but as a chronic, deeply entrenched disease.
It really is a disease of the ego.
And the text ends with a statement that completely flips how we usually think about healing. It says, in the end, only after enduring much suffering do many finally awaken to the deeper truths of life.
This raises an important question. It really forces us to look at the philosophical weight of suffering.
Because no one wants to suffer.
No, of course not. Why is suffering framed here as the mandatory price of admission for awakening? Modern society generally views suffering as something to be mitigated or prevented at all costs. We are taught to intervene, to cushion the blow, to comfort people.
Right. If I see a friend destroying their life with an obsession, my absolute first instinct is to step in and stop them from getting hurt. Calling suffering a medicine feels almost cruel.
It feels incredibly cruel until you look at the physics of the delusions Dwefeng has mapped out.
Okay, break that down for me.
Remember the symptoms: the extreme self-confidence, the impenetrable ego, the absolute refusal to listen to advice. This person has built a titanium fortress around their mind.
Right, the antivirus software is blocked.
Exactly. Gentleness just bounces off the walls. Rational debate is processed as an attack by ignorant people, which bizarrely only fuels their secret delight.
It just proves to them that they are right and everyone else is wrong.
Yes. When someone is that insulated by their own arrogance, the only thing powerful enough to shatter the delusion is the total catastrophic collapse of the delusion itself.
So they have to hit rock bottom, like absolute rock bottom.
They do.
The consequences of their actions have to become so massive that even a mind running at 200% capacity can't ignore them anymore.
Precisely. In this framework, suffering is an arbitrary punishment from the universe. Suffering is simply the unavoidable friction of a delusion colliding at high speed with reality.
Oh, that's a powerful way to put it.
When the romantic obsession inevitably implodes, or the political power is violently lost, or the mystical visions fail to prevent real, tangible ruin in their life, the resulting pain is the sledgehammer that finally breaks the ego.
Wow.
It is the only thing left that can wake them up to the truths they've been aggressively ignoring.
That is profound. It entirely shifts how you view someone in the grips of one of these fixations. It demands a level of objective, almost clinical understanding.
It forces you to step back.
Yeah, you realize you aren't looking at someone who just has a quirky hobby or intense ambition. You are looking at someone who is seriously ill, even if they are standing there smiling, telling you they are on top of the world.
It requires us to look past the surface-level enthusiasm and recognize the isolation and the biological toll hiding underneath.
Let's bring all of this together. Today, we've taken a deep dive into Shuafeng's March 2026 text on the symptoms of going astray.
And it has been quite the journey.
We decoded the terrifying warning signs. That toxic cocktail of extreme self-confidence, the total loss of logical reasoning, the frequent illusions, and a complete refusal to accept outside advice.
The titanium fortress.
Exactly. And we saw how that mental break inevitably leads to physical, biological breakdown.
We also unpacked the catalysts. We learned that this pathology doesn't actually care what you're chasing.
The object doesn't matter.
Right, whether your obsession is worldly like money and political status, or esoteric like numerology, supernatural claims, or rigid cultivation practices, the trap works the exact same way.
Because it's all about the mechanism.
The true danger is the descent into the secrecy, because hiding your actions creates the isolated feedback loop where delusion thrives.
And finally, we confronted the incredibly difficult reality of recovery. It's a holistic illness that requires psychological, spiritual, and physical healing.
All three at once.
All three. And tragically, because the ego becomes so deeply entrenched, enduring profound suffering is often the only mechanism strong enough to break the delusion and force an awakening.
Which is a tough pill to swallow.
It is. Ultimately, Shuafeng's text serves as a mirror for all of us. It asks you, listening right now, to evaluate the passions in your own life, your career, your relationships, your spiritual habits.
Are they grounded?
Are they balanced? Or are you slipping into secrecy, ignoring the gentle advice of the people who love you, and falling into the hidden, joyful trap of self-delusion?
It is a vital self-audit that we should all perform regularly.
I agree completely. But before we go, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over. A provocative idea that builds on the mechanics of this text.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Throughout this deep dive, we've focused heavily on the individual who is going astray. We talked about their absolute refusal to listen to advice from family, friends, and mentors. But consider for a moment the role of the bystander.
The friend, the spouse, or the mentor standing on the outside, holding the advice that is being rejected.
Exactly. If you see someone you deeply care about exhibiting these symptoms, if you recognize that they are genuinely, biologically incapable of logical reasoning and completely immune to your interventions, is it possible that the most compassionate thing you can do is actually to step back?
Wow.
If awakening truly requires enduring much suffering, as Shuafeng explicitly states, could our desperate attempts to save people from their obsessions, to constantly cushion their fall, actually be delaying their ultimate awakening?
That is a staggering thought. If the friction of reality colliding with delusion is the only cure, then preventing the crash actually prevents the cure.
It flips our entire definition of compassion upside down. Sometimes when you see that upward trajectory blow past the stratosphere and gravity stops working, you can't throw them a rope. You might just have to wait for them to finally hit the ground.
That's something to think about.
It really is. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. Take care of yourselves, stay grounded, and we'll see you next time.